Around the world, there is a hidden abnormality that is ruining millions of lives, including mine. It is most likely to first appear in adolescence and is known by the name of trochlear dysplasia. I'll be investigating the mystery of trochlear dysplasia and embarking on a journey of discovery across the UK to identify the gaps in knowledge about my condition and why it is ruining many lives. When I was 16 years old, I was diagnosed with trochlear dysplasia. Trochlear dysplasia is an abnormality where the trochlear groove, which is where your patella sits, is either flat or shallow and is abnormally shaped. This affects the stability of the patella resting in the trochlea, which can easily slip out of the groove or dislocate. However, one could have trochlear dysplasia with no symptoms, whilst another could have all. These symptoms can also show up later in life. According to knee experts, trochlear dysplasia affects 10% of the population and is mostly common in females. Within my research, I found various of contrasting opinions and inconclusive answers that had left me wondering more about my condition. I first want to know how many people it affects and whether it's genetic. I began by speaking to physiotherapist and patellofemoral expert Claire Robertson.
It's congenital, it's a genetic thing, and it is most likely to really rear its head at the prepubescent growth spurt. So in girls around 12 and boys around 13.
Is there any data of how many people this actually affects?
Yeah, about 10% of the population have trochlear dysplasia, but within that there is quite a variety. Some people will have it very subtly, some people will actually have a dome to the trochlea. It will affect females more than males and people with a family history of trochlear dysplasia.
One reason why trochlear dysplasia has not been well researched is due to the lack of quality imaging. More than 20 years ago, they did not have the software to measure the sulcus angles, which has only come apparent very recently. I began to reach out to other people with trochlear dysplasia wanting to know their experience. I managed to get in touch with Hayley Hunter, who lives in Scotland and also has trochlear dysplasia. After weeks of talking, me and Hayley arranged to meet. So I'm now on my way to Edinburgh, Scotland, flying from London. I'm going to meet Hayley Hunter on Sunday. Thoughts, I'm quite excited, quite nervous, but I'm also very intrigued to listen to her story, to hear her story, and to finally converse with her in person. So off we go!
So my name's Hayley Hunter. I'm 35 years old and I do two things for a living. I'm primarily a graphic designer, so I work for myself, have worked for myself pretty much since I left uni. And then as well as that, I run a holiday company, so I have a holiday house where people come to stay. I love art, which is why I ended up doing graphic design. I've always been into sort of drawing and painting, but more so over the last sort of 10-15 years, I've got into mountain biking and snowboarding and skiing and trail running and basically anything that takes me into the hills or the mountains. So I have trochlear dysplasia, which I have in both knees, my left and my right. It hasn't ruined my life, but it's limited it in ways that I still struggle with probably on a daily basis. I didn't feel confident in walking, which is something like, you know, before this I would run up a mountain and I suddenly couldn't walk down a staircase without holding a handrail and things. It's the first time I've felt kind of like betrayed by my own body a little bit, like it had let me down.
Hayley was 12 or 13 years old when she first started realising that her knees hurt. This is the common age where only after your growth spurts, the trochlear shape is revealed and is ultimately dictated by genetics.
I can't even count how many subluxations, so the partial dislocations. So I was having those as a teenager. I didn't know what was happening, but I knew that my knees were sore. And I suppose around that time there's a lot of like growth pain stuff. So people kind of said, oh, well, maybe it's growth pains or it's this or it's that.
I was still confused and felt that I needed more information. Dr. Lars Blond, who is a trochlear dysplasia expert and a patellofemoral specialist, explains the reasons behind the contradictions and why it is not commonly known. I have actually researched and spoken to some women, and they would say it is a rare condition. However, when I've researched, it says that it's relatively common and a lot of people have it. But so if it's relatively common, how is it that some doctors don't really know about it?
A very good question. Back in time, it was very difficult to diagnose this condition, since at that time you had the X-rays, and it's a little difficult to see on X-rays.
Do you think that's down to research? Do you think that there's a lack of research into this, or just a lack of answers?
There's a lack of research. You see a lot of money go to research for cancer and cardiac diseases, but in this area, it's very difficult to get any funds for this. There is quite a number of studies, I have to say, but there's a lot of questions that hasn't been answered yet.
Hayley suggests that the conflicting advice was her biggest difficulty for a number of years and was the reason why she didn't quickly resort to surgery.
The fact that a physiotherapist was begging me not to have surgery, and then the surgeon was telling me that if I do strength training I'll actually make the cartilage issues on my knee worse. So I was getting advice from physios, personal trainers, surgeons, lots of people just saying very different things. There was no central sort of information source or research that seemed to be the leading information on the subject. Like, there should be more awareness within medical professionals that maybe getting a scan earlier was all that I needed to find out when I was in my teens or my early 20s rather than in my early 30s.
Overall, I've learned that I'm not alone with my abnormality. After connecting with other people who also suffer from trochlear dysplasia, it has made me aware that my own experiences are mirrored by others. What's concerning is that medical experts are still not entirely sure about it, and that some of my questions were left unanswered. I'm hopeful that more research will be done and things will improve in the future.